Welcome back to another episode of the MediMobile Podcast. I'm Emily, a marketing specialist here at MediMobile, here to introduce you to today's theme, our Data Hub services. Previously on other episodes, we've discussed our AI automated medical coding and charge review system. Be sure to check those out on our YouTube page if you missed them. Today, we're diving into how MediMobile's Data Hub service transforms hospital and practice data management and makes data transfers as easy as possible for our customers. If I could describe our Data Hub services in one descriptive phrase, it would be seamless, secure, and scalable. Joining us now for the discussion are familiar faces, Lauren and Cameron, who head our sales team, and Will, our Vice President of Product Development. Cameron, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to the MediMobile Podcast. As Emily was stating, that we talked about charge capture, our AI, what we've been doing the past year or so, and as well as our charge review. But today we're going to talk about Data Hub services, and we have a special guest who's very knowledgeable, Will. So the first question I want to ask is, what are MediMobile Data Hub services?
So the MediMobile Data Hub services, and depending on the practice's needs or facilities, is MediMobile, after doing what we've done for long enough, saw a need of getting ourselves in the middle of the facility and client between data relations. To date, we provide ADT, MDM services by connecting directly with the hospital and their approval processes, everything else there. What we're offering with Data Hubs are, we work with the health systems directly, have connections for all facilities, and are able to coordinate with them to, through approval processes, provide that data to their contracted physicians, speeding up a lot of the processes and, headaches folks run into today, be it security reviews, business associate agreements, so on and so forth, everything having to do with navigating the legal and bureaucratic process there with anything HIPAA related. So with our relationships with the hospital and agreements, all that's already done and out of the way. We have the approvals for the physicians, and we're able to provide the needed data to them in a timely manner.
So what specific data that we're maybe speaking of?
So it really varies. Depending on the practice's needs and what the hospitals are able to provide. Generally, the data we'll work with is ADT, admin discharge transfer, which covers the face sheet, demographic information, insurance guarantor, and so on for patients. MDM interfaces, medical document management, which are HL7 messages that really just provide the document holistically and all the information about the document, i.e. you see a patient, you document your history and physical. We'll get that data for that initial encounter and be able to provide that to the group or let them interact with that in our system. The next would be ORU, order request utilizations, which depending on how the hospital utilizes those can be orders for labs, x-rays, and so on, or it can actually cover similar things to the MDM where we're able to provide that documentation that coincide with their encounters. The last piece, which is something we've actually been working on, is DFTs in some cases, which is detailed financial transactions, which in some cases the hospital require the physicians to enter their CPT and diagnosis into the EMR themselves for tracking purposes. What we're able to do then, if they can provide that data, is they're not having to do double work between their charge capture system or their billing system. We integrate directly with the hospital. They enter it there. It goes and it flows into our system fine. We can marry it up with the documentation, sheet data, and then provide their billing company what we call a complete package.
Got it.
Okay, so Will, you kind of touched on some of the problems it can solve and the efficiencies. Are there any other items that increase efficiency, either with the onboarding of our customers or overall processing?
Absolutely. And, like you said, I touched on it a little bit. One of the hardest things about data integrations is navigating the legal and bureaucratic processes, working with the hospital systems, finding the right resource to work with, the person who can actually escalate and get the appropriate resources and engaged. But then going through their processes, be it security reviews, legal reviews, approvals, and depending on the health system, that can take a month, it can take a year. What we found with the data hub, if we've got the proper agreements in place with the health systems, we get to bypass all that because they've already vetted us. They know we're secure. We meet all the security requirements, and we set processes in place. So customers can just come to us and say, hey, I go to hospital X. Can I give my data? We submit a request to the hospital. They vet, this provider is credentialed, and we start receiving their data shortly after submitting that request. It's a much faster turnaround. What we see being, months to a year. In some cases, it can be same day that we can start getting data, just depending on those internal processes, but significantly speeds everything up. And from the hospital perspective, and there's a lot less risk and compliance. From a compliance perspective, it's a lot simpler for them.
Just to add to that, we have some recent customers where we actually serve as a data hub for the facilities in which they serve patients. And we've seen how quickly that process moves when we do serve as the data hub for those facilities and those patients. So Will's absolutely right that timing is significantly decreased when we serve as that hub.
Yeah, and then Will, so when did we start actually offering these services?
So for Data Hub, we've actually been providing that for, let me think, it actually predates me being at the company, but if I remember right, because I did manage those services when I was in the integration side of things, I believe it's been about 15 plus years now. It actually started as, we have relationships with the hospital, we have the feeds, and we had a client who had created their own product in-house and had moved on from our system, but we're very good at getting the feeds, frankly, and they were struggling. So we worked out an agreement to where we were able to provide the data to them and built the initial infrastructure for our data hub. And, over the years, as our relationships grew with other health systems, we really saw a need there with the health systems, one from an IT perspective on their side, being able to manage these integrations and requests. So as the relationships grew, we worked with them directly to say, versus you having a whole team having to manage this, how about y'all just have a few guys who can vet our requests? We'll handle all the heavy lifting and go on from there. So started about 15 years ago, and we've just grown our services and what we can offer data-wise since then.
Okay. And then just a follow-up question to that. I mean, where do you think we're kind of headed with this service?
Well, where I see things really heading, I mean, like I was saying, is as we continue to grow in our relationships with the health systems, we really want to insert ourselves, between the hospitals and the providers to simplify the process to get them data. I mean, it's 2024. Everything is data centric now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks are, finally getting off paper and moving on to electronic. And what they're finding is to actually get that information in the systems they need is extremely difficult. So we're continuing to push to simplify that process, not just for the hospital systems, but for the practices, so they can get the data they need and then get it quickly. Because that's the biggest thing is turnaround times for this.
So, Will, you did just talk about the time it takes being speeded up by utilizing us as a data hub. How do you get the data in the first place?
From a hub perspective or a standard integration perspective, just to clarify, because they're not terribly different, but
let's talk about both.
Okay, so like I had mentioned earlier, let's talk standard integration. We'll get a client on, they'll be requesting, hey, we want to get face sheet information. If we have a relationship with the hospital, we can reach out to our contacts there and get the process rolling. If not, we'll ask for the practices engagement, reaching out to, hospital leadership and putting in the proper requests. From there, we try and get IT together. We've got to go through all the legal and bureaucratic steps to get things approved. And once all that's done, at be it a month, 6 months, a year, we're able to then start all the technical work. So setting up our connection, be that a VPN, an FTP, API, however the hospital allows us to connect and receive data from them. Then we have the actual interface build. So depending on the data type, be it ADT, MDM, ORU, we'll build to the hospital specifications for how they're going to send us the data. So that way, when they send us a message for a patient, we're talking apples to apples. We know first name, last name, date of birth, and everything translates appropriately. Once those are done, we go through testing processes and eventually a transition to what we call a production environment, which is the live data from the hospital in real time. So, again, we've set these up. We've done one in a week before, and there are some that have taken years in some cases, depending on the processes. Now, to answer the other part of the question, Lauren, from the hub perspective, great example. We've actually got a health system we're their data hub for. We've had a great relationship with them for years, and we had enough clients, reaching out saying, "Hey, we want data for MediMobile. We want data for MediMobile." And our leadership and their leadership got together and said, "Okay, we've got enough requests here." And we had known and worked with them long enough. We suggested and offered up, "Well, how about you let us handle all the data? And any client, be it a MediMobile customer or not, comes to us and we'll provide it to whatever, be it our own system or whatever system they're requesting." So that's cutting down on their IT resources, be it, networking, interface, and management. So really our process today with them is we get a client, be it MediMobile or just hub services. We'll submit a request to them. They'll vet and say, "Yep, nope, these are credentialed providers. Here's the practice." Okay. And they will add that to our hub or update our hub to provide the data. And we're able to send it downstream to the third party, or the client can start using our system using the data. So versus, the months and or years it can take to set up a individual integration, which in some cases that can be by individual client. So you get one client set up, it took a year, another one comes in, you might be looking at the same process again. What we eliminate with the hub is that turnaround time. So it's just a simple request of, "Hey, we have this new practice," hospital vets it, which, can be same day or, worst case a week, and we've got their data and can send it outbound.
Wow. So it sounds like we're able to save not only providers' time, but also entire hospital systems' time by being the hub for their data.
No, exactly. And that's actually, that was a big purpose in that. We work with hospitals every day, and we've built a lot of relationships throughout the industry, and especially on the IT and development side. And that, from their perspective, was one of their biggest headaches to manage. And like I said earlier, we saw an opportunity there, and we've got very good relationships, and we have the technology on our end. So we wanted to see if we could fill that niche, and it's actually worked out really well.
Cool. Yeah, and I think we kind of explain, in some terms, how does it work, and what are the key benefits. But I want to jump into like maybe our security. So, how secure is it? And what measures do we take, as a company?
So from the data hub perspective, we treat every integration the same. With handling patient information, we have to make sure our system is as secure as possible, be it, actual users using our application from the mobile app to the web, or, like I said, in some cases, we're sending to other third parties who aren't actually using our application because we're managing data on the hospital's behalf. But it's our standard and goal to have the highest security requirements possible because, per HIPAA, that's one, we want to make sure everybody's data is safe, and we want, to show that trust and reliability that the hospitals put on us is well founded. So secure connections, we always make sure, all security reviews are done. We do annual reviews on everything. We have our SOC 2 and other security steps that are taken, which our wonderful security and infrastructure department manages.
Got it. And then what is maybe like the cost? What does that kind of look like for the user?
So from a cost perspective, our biggest thing, because we're just trying to ease the burden on everyone, because if we're able to provide data quickly and seamlessly, that's the goal with it. And we don't want there to be a burden. In some cases, with other vendors, we've seen, pretty staggering prices per integration and continued maintenance costs. What we're trying to offer is very simple upfront costs to just manage the feeds. We have a connection we have to manage, and then, depending on the health system and their security requirements, provider management within the feed, making sure that the data that is being sent out is what is appropriate for the practice and the information they need. So we keep the costs as low as we can to make sure that everyone is, one, it's affordable, and they're getting everything they need.
Mm-hmm.
So, Will, it sounds like we've been doing this for a long time, as you stated, probably over 15 years, but how has it evolved over time?
Well, what it started out as, I told you 15 years ago, and that was a little bit of a guess, but we were just sending on the data we were getting before. Think of it as, right as we get it, we just pass it on. What we've evolved into is a more comprehensive management system. So we're able to, like I said, provide the data they're actually needing. We can manage it from a provider perspective. We're able to look at specific details of the data being sent to us, and depending on the practices or hospitals' needs and requirements, we can not manipulate the data, but orchestrate it in a way that they're getting exactly what they are requesting. So, you've got a group, they're getting muddled by, updates from the ED or other things, and hey, we only want to see inpatient admission data. We're able to identify and send specific data sets for them. And again, as it has grown into, not just ADT, but MDMs and other things, we can manage and control the data that's being sent outbound, so they're getting exactly what they need, really cutting out a lot of the noise, because that's, what you'll see with a lot of direct interfaces with constant updates, older visits, encounters being updated in the EMR. You might get a message for a visit that happened a year ago. Someone happened to update some of the demographics, and that generated a message. But in some cases, the groups don't want that information, because that can actually cause updates that can impact current information.
I'm pretty sure everyone is kind of familiar with the AI, because we did discuss that towards the beginning of our podcast episodes. But how does this tie into AI, automated medical coding practices?
So with AI and specifically the hub services, if we have the agreements and data hub services set up with the facilities, like I said before, it speeds everything up. That's the biggest thing here. And we actually, working with the hospital that closely, as adjustments need to be made to the feed, i.e. we're not getting a specific document type. or we're having their issues with certain templates. We're able to work much more closely with the hospital than you would normally see to get those adjustments made to streamline the AI process and make adjustments on the fly. So one, from a time perspective, speeds things up tremendously, and two, from a issue resolution, if there are problems with the EMR templates and other things, we're able to get much faster resolutions because of our relationships with the hospital.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Well, I think that wraps up all of our questions here. I appreciate all the viewers for coming to check on the MediMobile podcast, and I'm gonna turn it to Emily.
Thank you guys so much for joining. Let's say bye to Lauren, Cameron, and Will. And that wraps up today's episode on MediMobile's Data Hub services. We've explored how our innovative solution simplifies data integration, enhances security, and ensures compliance, all while reducing IT overhead. For more information on how MediMobile can help you, check out our website, medimobile.com. For any specific questions, reach out to our email line at sales@medimobile.com. If you're ready for a personalized demo, head over to our website and schedule one directly on our calendar. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember to subscribe for more insights on transforming healthcare data management. Until next time on the MediMobile Podcast.